إن الإسلام بدأ غريبا وسيعود غريبا كما بدأ، فطوبى للغرباء.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تكونوا كالذين آذوا موسى فبرأه الله مما قالوا وكان عند الله وجيها. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما.
There's also 2 extra mics.
Whoa.
I wonder what that means.
I feel like they're probably going to know, though, from the way we're going to promo it and stuff.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is what it is. It is what it is. But, alhamdulillah, we had our first guest on the podcast, Boonaa and Essam. And, we had a nice conversation talking about what do you really get into? It's mainly talking about the movie, but...
No, it was
what's the topic?
Okay.
The main topic that you say we spoke about.
We're talking first deeply about like
the importance of mentorship, right?
The importance of mentorship, the younger generation.
Turn it silent.
Are you in character when you're saying that? Are you probably using that? Turn it silent.
I did not say it like that. I did not. So don't make me sound fruity. This guy crazy.
Okay. Is it? This guy crazy.
Bro, I hate this guy.
Okay. No, we're talking about the importance of mentorship, giving back to the younger generation. How we don't, as the younger generation, pass on our, knowledge, wisdom, resources for the next generation. It was just easy when it's given to us,
There's no passing of the torch, exactly.
We got into a lot, though.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, mashallah, these guys are some knowledgeable guys. They passed on a lot of wisdom to us.
And we really got into stuff that affects us like real life, It's stories in a way, but at the same time, it's like, it's a reality for a lot of us, right? And we spoke a lot about stuff that's happening right now in our communities. A lot of young Muslims being killed and, not having that right environment around them to make it out. And subhanAllah, like we touched on some very, very important points. And I think it's going to be a very relatable episode.
Very. Yeah, wallahi. I mean, it opened my mind up to a lot of things. Yeah, you're gonna see for yourself, but spoiler alert, I'm just saying, I'm letting you guys know right now, there's a lot of spoilers on the film. And if you guys are planning to watch it, I'd suggest you save this episode for after that,
Yeah, watch the movie first, then come back to this.
Because they, what they were telling us about the behind the scenes of the film made me appreciate the film much more, So... yeah, if you guys are cool with spoilers, at this very amazing film, by the way, I didn't have much expectations going into it.
Yeah.
But I left it like, wow, like they actually pulled that off. So yeah, you're going to learn a lot about the film through, the creators of it.
Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And inshallah, give us your feedback. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the other side.
Other side with 2 more people attached to those chairs.
Yeah, cut.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Strangers Podcast. where we talk about our experiences as a Muslim living in the West. And you know what they say, I mean?
Glad tidings to the strangers.
Glad tidings to the strangers. So today is a very special episode. We have some very special guests with us. We have a very talented artist and a writer and now an award-winning actor, and my brother Essam. And
That's the first time you heard that sentence. Huh?
yeah. And next we have, well, most people know him, but for those that don't, very talented artist, award-winning actor, creative director,
award-winning poet,
and an award-winning poet. No, I was getting there.
award-winning filmmaker. I got to one up him.
Yeah, thanks. And we have Boonaa Muhammad.
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, well, I'm just saying.
That was a good intro. I do that sometimes too to people. You ask them up and they're like, "Oh, we're talking about this guy."
Yeah, well, I did not steal that from someone, brother. Okay, well, I just wanted to say, guys, I'm very excited to have you guys here. Wallahi, it's we've been talking about doing collabs for a while, but we just had to find the right time, and what a perfect time with you guys, two special guys at a time where you guys launched a very amazing movie, and we got the opportunity to see it yesterday. So, mashallah, Allahumma barak. And yeah, so how's Edmonton, man? Welcome to my city. Yeah, I take that as
that silence was the vibe of Edmonton.
I really don't.
Look, I'll tell you this: people hate on Edmonton,
Yeah.
like jokingly, right? Some people say Edmonton is where Toronto people go when they join the witness protection program, when they're on the run from the law and they need a place to settle down, a little bit low key. Come to Edmonton. So Edmonton is good for that. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I love the community here.
Yeah. See, that's the one thing that
Family vibes, yeah.
Yeah.
very much family oriented,
Very much, yeah.
like, I mean, I have a lot of family out here myself. So I think the community, and it's growing. Alhamdulillah, like I've seen it in the last decade grow
Yeah, I'm
significantly,
sure, yeah.
you know? I remember, subhanAllah, the first time I came to Edmonton, I was probably like, oh man, I was probably like 20 years old. So when I think they had just built the university.
U of A.
U of A.
Oh,
And
man.
in fact, they had just built that yellow dome thing.
Dome.
I don't know what that
Yeah.
I think they're
Okay,
dorms,
so he knows where at Edmonton. Yeah.
I think they're dorms. I don't know what's inside
Yeah,
of it.
it's I think it's like a facility for like.
Some like maybe it's a gym facility.
Yeah, it's a
something
gym
like that.
facility,
yeah.
I remember when they just built that,
Wow.
and it was like this brand new campus, and everybody's so excited about it. So like from that time till now, it's like mashallah tabarakallah, a lot has changed.
Wow. Wallah, that's crazy. And
I heard the first masjid in North America is in Edmonton as well.
which one is it?
Al-Rashid.
Al-Rashid?
Yeah.
Did you not know this?
I actually didn't know that.
Believe me, this is
I didn't do my
Canadian
research
history.
on my own
No,
city.
this is Canadian history. In fact, the actual masjid is not the one that we're praying in now.
Mm-hmm.
The actual masjid is like a house.
It's in Fort Edmonton Park.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually a Canadian historic site now.
Wow.
So like it's protected by Canada.
Wow.
And this is for us as Canadians actually very important to know.
That's
our
crazy.
history.
You guys are teaching me about my city. Wallah. I didn't do my
that's
research.
pretty wild.
This is your city. This is my city.
Your city, yeah. Like,
It's our city.
Our city. Yeah. And for you, I was gonna say, because you're from America, that's a different, whole other ball game, So like, you went to Vancouver and straight to here, right?
Yes. So I came to Edmonton for the first time like 4 years ago.
Okay,
I did
so
an
you've
event over here, and this is my first time back ever since. But I'm from Seattle. I was raised in Seattle.
Yeah.
We just came from Vancouver. That's like 2 hours away from
Yeah,
2 hours and 30 minutes away from Seattle by drive.
Yeah, that's a different vibes. Vancouver is more America than it is Canada.
Yeah, very like Pacific Northwest vibes.
Yeah.
The nature, the trees. The scenery.
Yeah, one thing I can say though, like you said, Edmonton is not really known for like the city itself and the beauty of it. It's more so the vibes, the people, the community. So you're gonna have to be here for a little bit to actually fall in love with the city.
Edmonton does something funny. It does there's like ups and downs in the culture of the community, like especially the Muslim community. Like for like a 2-3 year span, it'll be popping.
Yeah.
And then it'll go in regression. Then everything will slow
I was
down.
literally telling that before we started this. I was saying how before COVID hit, like the community was at its best. Like it was events, people coming together, doing beneficial stuff together. After COVID, like most things, it was just a big drop, and it was hard to bounce back from that ever since.
Yeah. There's a point in time actually where Edmonton, back when you used to come, there used to always be conferences and events happening all the time. No, there's just always so many different lectures, conferences.
Al-Rashid Masjid was quite active. I used to come with stuff with Sahaba Masjid. I think what happens, if you ask me from an outsider's perspective, I think the people who are involved, they get burnt out.
Yeah.
They put so much pressure on like 3-4 guys and 3-4 sisters to do everything.
Yeah.
And then what happens? One guy gets married, this sister moves over here, and then you gotta start from scratch.
And for the younger people, it's a tough act to follow. Like it's hard to carry what they were building for us, you know?
Yeah, and especially I feel like MSA culture, it's so difficult because there's such a, like, we don't do enough to pass on institutional knowledge to the next group. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So like you're in the MSA 3-4 years. Okay, now
Graduate.
a new person's coming in. They don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I remember, it's so funny. I reached out to my old university. I went to Ryerson University.
Okay.
It's called something TMU now. They changed their name.
Oh, wow.
And I remember reaching out to them on IG being like, yo, I want to do a showing there. And then being like, who are you?
Oh.
And I'm like, who am I? Who are you? Like, I built your MSA, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like this completely
Went over their heads.
yeah,
a
there's
lot.
a completely different generation. They have no idea who was there
passed
before
down.
them and who's gonna come after. So I don't know. We don't know.
Wow, that's crazy. Wallahi, it goes to show, you know, they don't know the people that paved the way for them. You know, you guys ran so that we could walk. You know,
You didn't even know Al Rashid Masjid.
I actually did not know it was the first in North America. So I need to do my research.
I don't know if it's the first in North America. It's the
First
first
in
in
Canada,
Canada.
in Canada,
First in
okay.
Canada, yeah. We should also know that they were Lebanese.
Yeah,
Majority
yeah,
Lebanese
yeah.
community,
That's
right?
that.
And it's from like one area in Lebanon too.
Yeah.
And it's a very influential like part of that, you know, that country. So, you know, Allahumma barak, like we owe a lot of you know, gratitude to them, like
Wow.
for coming
So
here and establishing.
I kind of want to ask you, because you know a lot about Edmonton and Toronto. What would you say is like a big difference between the two? Because you lived in both. You know, you've seen both ends of it.
Yeah. Well, I think Edmonton, again, is one of those cities where people either coming here to raise kids.
Yeah.
Right. So there's more like kind of family, or they're strictly like grinding.
Like
You're
going to
coming-
camps.
You're literally in the concentration camps in with these Fort Mac.
Does Essam know about the camps?
No, you don't know about it. There's also Brooks. You don't know about Brooks. You don't know about
man.
that life. Bro, it's a tough life.
Yeah.
Man. People come out here and they like work like
It's fast
like
money.
20-hour days, bro. Like, and it's, but you know the crazy thing is, like, I don't know if it's still the same now. Like people in Tim Hortons would get like $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Like regular jobs,
McDonald's
because
would
you're
get a
in the
lot
middle of nowhere, they pay you so much.
No one wants to live there.
Yeah,
Basically, it's quicker cash, but you're giving up your social life. You know, you're on your own.
Yeah.
It's not easy for your mental health. You know,
Yeah, it's not. They live in,
being isolated for so
they
long.
live in dorms sometimes, like especially the oil camps. Oil camps is like really like that's a grimy life, man.
I was saying Bilal from the movie could have used that when he wanted some quick
That
cash.
would have manned them up, bro. That would have manned them up. Good time.
That was a smooth intro.
So
man.
funny, I'm telling you. Yeah. So speaking of Bilal, the movie. I mean, you want to kickstart though?
Yeah. So about the movie, we wanted to ask you guys, what was the inspiration behind it? The message that you guys wanted to push to people. What was it?
Yeah, so the film actually came about as a project, a script that I was working on with a friend of mine in 2007. Actually, before that, like 2006, he ended up passing away in 2007. And at the time of his death, I mentioned this at the event, he was like on Canada's top 10 most wanted. Like he was really, really heavy into the, you know, the street life. And but for me, he was like the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
I never saw that side of him. Wow. I knew about it. I was very like, I knew like this guy, you know, there's so many things that I took from him, like in real life that I saw, like one scene in the film, for example. I could spoil it. Why not? It's my film. I'll spoil it as much as I want. Yeah, spoiler alert for who? Whatever. You didn't even pay to see the movie, so why do you care? You know? So there was one time I remember literally he used to walk around with a gun all the time.
Wow.
But he would stash the gun in random places. So we'd go inside of a building, and then he'd be coming out, and he'd be walk to a bush, and he'd be like, "Oh, sorry." He'd leave it, like he would just leave this gun like random places.
Gun
so
compartment.
I included one of those one of the scenes.
that.
Yeah. That's like, I don't know if that's a Toronto thing or what. That's how people do with their guns or whatever. Like because they're scared of going into buildings, places where you need security and stuff. So they literally stash it somewhere outside. So, but he was like that. Like he was a gunman, and he actually was like a person who used to rob drug dealers.
Wow.
You know, that's a crazy lifestyle.
That's a different
You think
level.
about it.
That's scary. You know?
Bro,
That's
imagine,
scary.
like we think about drug dealers as like scary people. This guy would target them.
Yeah.
You know,
so
so
your life is always like on the line.
His life was always on the line.
I was watching your back.
Yeah, like just a constant state of paranoia, you know? But then there was the other side of him, which was like community. Like he saw the mistakes in the way he was raised and the situation he was in. And he could acknowledge like, no, this is not right. But he was just in too deep.
Yeah.
You know, like he couldn't get out.
Bad situation.
Yeah. And in the film, like, I kind of played it off like at the end when, you know, Bilal asked him like, hey, you know, let's go to Africa, Again, spoiler, whatever.
Spoiler alert.
Right? But in real life, this guy wouldn't have had a passport. There's no way he could leave the country.
Wow.
Right? And not just that, you're wanted by the law. So if you attempt to leave the country, though, that's
They'll
the
catch
easiest
you.
way to catch
There's
you.
no escaping.
So there
from
really
that.
is no escaping at
Yeah,
that
wow.
point, right? You can't leave the country. You can't live peacefully within the country. Like what are your options at that point? You got to move to Edmonton.
Yeah. I go to Canada.
Move to Edmonton, start fresh, go to Brooks, start practicing your Zabihan knife cutting skills. Bismillah, you're good.
Wallahi, it's so funny. Yeah, wallahi, that's actually crazy, wallahi, because you did mention how like you created characters based off, you know, like real life situations.
Personal life. Yeah.
And it's scary to see how this is actually a reality, and people actually go through this. It's not just your boy and you being like the person that's trying to, you know, figure out his way through like your homie. It's a lot of people are in this situation. Actually, the majority of young like
it's real life.
Muslims and Somalis are actually in situations like that. So it's crazy.
You know, and it's funny too that, not funny, but it's sad in the sense that like we all know someone.
Yeah, I know. Wallahi.
Like everyone knows somebody who either was killed, and you know, our community is very like, they're very ajib in the sense that like somebody dies, they won't sometimes divulge how.
Yeah.
You know, it could be, we found about this in Minnesota, like people are overdosing on drugs, heavy drugs, and they're like, oh, they died peacefully in their sleep, you know, they're like a disease.
You know,
nobody wants to like,
you know, like, so they start making up. I tell you this, I had a very, very, very close family friend of mine, and for years I didn't know where he was. Like I didn't see him, no phone, no nothing. This was like back in the day before like internet and stuff. And they told me, oh, you know, he's visiting his father in Australia. You know, he's at a, come to find out this guy was in jail the whole time.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, because people don't want to like air out your dirty laundry.
Yeah,
you know?
but like he was going through it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Like nobody even knew.
Yeah.
You know? And we just kept it on. Everyone just keeps on the DL, hush, 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 hush. And then we don't, as a community, collectively address the problems. We don't actually address the root issues and causes of why youth go down those roads if we're not there to have those conversations.
Yeah. And one thing I do like is how in this movie, like everybody watching the movie and the film can resonate with a character in it. You know, whether you're the person that's lost trying to find their way, whether you're the person that's like the bystander trying to guide you and, you know, seeing how you can like, you know, push to bring them to the right way, or you're on the other side of it and you know, stuck in it with the person.
Yeah, or you're like character like Jenna, who's just kind of observing.
Bystander, yeah.
You know, but anyways, Jenna's a funny character too because she's really an analogy. You know, like Jenna. Her name is Jenna. You know, like so the whole time he's chasing Jenna.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. That's very poetic.
Yeah. So she's really like his motivation throughout the film. You know, the real interesting part, again, major spoiler. Okay, one of my favorite scenes that I wrote was at that final part when you're going to the barbershop and you're walking there. The way we wrote it, we didn't shoot it the same way because logistically it was raining and stuff that day, so it was a little bit harder to shoot. But it was supposed to be like he sees the shop and he sees Jenna in one eye. So it's either I go this way or that way. You know?
I would have made for a good poster.
Yeah, but again, it was an analogy because it's like literally that's the decision you make. Either you're going to Jenna or you're going this way.
Wow. And you too with the piece you did at the end, you were kind of like making an analogy between Layla and the dunya.
Oh, that was Muslim Bilal's piece, Layla.
Muslim Bilal's
yeah, that was
piece,
heavy. Yeah, the brother from London.
Okay, that was
I think that was that was a very powerful piece to include towards the end of the film.
Yo, shout out to MB.
Yeah, shout out to
for letting
MB.
me steal his song. I don't even know if he's seen it yet, but inshallah, it's all good. If not, I'll see you in court, I guess. No, he's good, man. Mashallah.
That's sick. All right.
I want to bounce off onto something that you were talking about, because you know how you were saying that when someone was in jail and then nobody really knew about it, so they were keeping it under the rug, but we weren't able to address the real problem and go towards actual solutions. And you know how like everyone knows someone that it happened to, or like it's in your society, you know, like even subhanAllah, we found out today about a brother, may Allah have mercy on him, that he got killed. He got killed literally today. And it's a young brother, Edmonton. He's like what, 20, 21, 22? And these are, you know, brothers that a lot of the community, everything that's going on, like we're just keeping it under the rug. Nobody's actually addressing it. Everyone knows someone who's in this situation, but not really doing anything about it. We end up just falling short as a community as a whole, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's important as well for us as, like, we here are all leaders, right? Whether you acknowledge it or not, you're a leader in some type of capacity, right? I think one major mistake our community has made repeatedly for years and generations is when we're in a situation of leadership, we're not passing on the baton and we're not training the next group to take over. We're not planning to pass. Most times, look at Masajid. Masajid are a great example. they get in leadership and they, in their minds, there's never a time when they're not going to be leaders, right? It's like, no, it's like the khilafah. Like, no, I'm here until the end of time. No re-election, no nothing. Like, they just want to run it for the rest of their lives, right? But that's not how you build community, right? And we have to be cognizant of the fact that people's situations will change, people's lives, you know, they'll move, they'll do whatever. But if we're not setting up the institution to succeed, this is something that I learned more than anything from Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif, Allah yarhamu, right? The founder of Al-Maghrib Institute. Like, he founded this organization. And within a few years of seeing its success, he was like, okay, I'm going to put it in the hands of competent people and I'm going to move on to my next thing.
So they can carry it on.
Yeah, but that is so ajib. In the Muslim space. That's never the thing that happens, right? Somebody sets up a successful organization. That's it.
We eat off it.
You eat on it, you, your kids, your grandkids, like khalas, it becomes something in your generation. It becomes something like a waqf for you and your kids. And we have this really bad form of nepotism that occurs in our community where like we favor our kids and our, you know, our children, our cousins, whatever. But if we're sincere, if you have ikhlas, it means that we do this with the best people possible under whatever circumstances we can. Like, it doesn't matter if I know them or they're related to me or my tribe or my background. It's like, no, you're qualified. Alhamdulillah, you're the right person for the job.
Because they can be the ones to teach like your future kids, the future generations too, you know?
Yeah. And it's also an investment in our community. Like, if we don't put people in positions of leadership, and this was the point I was making even under the character of Uthman, right? Uzi. It's like, if we don't invest in leaders like that, they are going to either go to different cities, they're going to leave, or they're going to get, you know, they're going to feel like I'm not being appreciated. They're going to, you know, move to different lifestyles. Or there's so many brothers, panel. We had, you know, I know brothers in the dawah back home in Toronto, like they were very active. The community wasn't supportive of them. They're like, oh, khalas, I'm just going to move.
Wow.
They move some other city, whatever. And then we lose as a community. We're like, why? We had this brother who was active. He was doing so much. And yet we are the ones who are lost right now. Because we didn't put him in a position to win, you know? And instead we chose this guy or this lady who's like related to us or something, some shady backdoor deal. And then who suffers? The community.
We fall off as a community, exactly. Yeah, wallah, and it's true because when we were younger, like we were teenagers, we had people doing that for us. We had people always like putting us on to whether it's events, whether it's putting us in a position to be leaders. And they used to always tell us, like, you guys are going to be the ones carrying the torch in the future. But as kids, we're naive. Like, it went through from one ear to the other, you know? So it never really like registered to us until we reached that point where we were in the position to be leaders. And it was like, wow, like we really appreciate how they were to us because it's not easy. It's one thing to be a leader and another thing to act on your leadership and actually take into action and do your part as leaders, you know? So it's crazy. We need to do better, our generation.
The problem with our generation is I think a lot of times we just think that we're still young.
Like
all of us are
we're
like,
not ready to face that.
We're not ready to help anyone out because we feel like, we're lost in this world and everything.
How old are you guys?
I'm turning 28.
I'm 28.
28. Okay.
Turning 29.
But still, when I look at like my parents and our parents, when they first came here, they came like early 20s. And these guys came in, a brand new place, not speaking the language. And they had to, build that foundation for us.
From scratch.
And and they were working extremely hard. Whereas us, alhamdulillah, a lot of us, we had better opportunities than our parents. And it's like, what are we doing for the next generation?
Which is heartbreaking because when they sacrifice so much to assimilate into like a new culture, learn everything, and be able to teach it to us just so we can have a better opportunity, not them. We can have a better opportunity. And we just throw it away and get involved with like distractions and trying to get like fast money and all this stuff that that goes against everything they raised us for, right? And that's how we see a lot of death, like especially as of late, and a lot of like crying mothers, people having to bury their children over what? Money, a little piece of paper that it's crazy, wallahi. And like I was saying to you earlier, the scary ones are the young ones that they're not calculated. They just do and they don't think. Those are the ones that are terrifying because a lot of collateral damage happens over that.
We were talking about the other day too.
Yeah, and even like touching on that point, it's like the brain does not fully develop until the age of 25. When you're younger, that you're not thinking about consequences. You'll go 100 miles per hour, kilometers. I don't know what it is in kilometers. But and you're not going to think about getting in a car accident or getting pulled over by the police. And that's why a lot of young people put themselves in these type of predicaments, unfortunately, where they lose their lives at such a young age. And then, you know, once we get, you know, a bit older, you know, that's when we start to think about, okay, you know, I have this to lose, I have that to lose, right? And may Allah have mercy on all the young brothers that we lost, because they're still young, they're still babies. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, unfortunately, some people don't make it out. Some people, you know, make it out and have and are able to reflect. And subhanAllah, even you touching on the point of the young brother, you know, passing away, Allah yarhamu. But today I got the news that a young brother from our city was, you know, he was killed in a movie theater in my city. You know, and just last week, another young brother, we had to bury another young brother. And yeah, so it's just that's 3 people that I know within a week. You know what I mean?
But Seattle also is a little bit scary in the sense that like a lot of this is Muslim on Muslim crime.
Yeah.
And it's not just Seattle. I mean, a lot of cities are like that. But like, is that something that you're finding?
As of at a point, it was a lot heavier, you know, but that's definitely an issue that I see all over, you know what I'm saying, from like all over North America, right? And I think a lot of it just growing up in different neighborhoods. Like you go to London, you'll see similar issues. You come to Toronto, Seattle, just growing up in different neighborhoods and not really understanding the religion, you know what I'm saying, to the point where it's like, yo, that's my brother, like by faith. And that bond is supposed to be a strong bond, right? But we don't think about that. We're just thinking about, oh, he's from this neighborhood. Oh, that neighborhood, that person from that neighborhood took my brother. So it's war now, you know? So unfortunately, I feel like faith is not really like something that is a foundation for a lot of the youth in our communities, you know? But it's also our responsibility to teach that to the next generation. You know what I mean?
Because most of the time, it's like you said, once you reach that age of 25, you're starting to get to that point where you're reflecting and you're trying to get yourself back on track, right? Yeah. And you're realizing like all the stuff I did in the past, you know, could have left me to lose my life. You know, like I'm in that situation now. How do I get the people that are, you know, that are in that state of mind out of it? You know, you're trying to kind of pull them out of it. But most of the time, it's their biggest influence is the majority that are doing it with them, right? No matter how much you want to, you know, guide them and show them, yo, listen, you're not seeing things properly right now, but eventually you will. And before it's too late, I want to get you to see things the right way. And it's like you said yesterday, something along the lines of you doing your own thing is also a form of like da'wah. Like people see you, they get inspired off you just like living your life, you know?
You'd be surprised, man. Even just being a good person.
Exactly.
Like literally, like, you know, if the young brother in the masjid, whatever, like, hey, bro, let's take you out for lunch. Let's go grab coffee. Tell me what's going on in your life. You know, like giving people the time of day, like listening to them, like actually being attentive, being there as a support system. You know, people are going through things, like letting them know, hey, you can reach out to me if you need any help. Like this type of thing goes such a long way. You know, one of the things in my life that I felt like was a huge asset to me and helped me in my success has been the fact that I've had really good mentors throughout my life. You know, I've had brothers who, not always Muslim, but like men who in my life were formulating me as a man. Like they were teaching me about like, what does it mean to be a man? You know, like I think that, especially for, you know, a lot of people coming from single parent families, sometimes they don't have access to a male figure in their life. Maybe they don't have a father in their life. You know, I had a father, alhamdulillah, but you know, even then it's hard to connect with immigrant parents sometimes. Like there's a big disconnect, you know. But having people that like grew up here, that were older than me, that like would just kick game with me and just, you know, listen to me or whatever, like that I felt like was such an unfair advantage that I had that most people didn't have. And another thing in my life, I spent so much time around older people. When I was younger, when I was in like grade 9, I was hanging around with grade 12 people, you know? And I feel like it gave me a different perspective. I wasn't like okay with just being around guys my age, because you know, guys your own age are immature, you know? But when you're able to learn from people, when you're able to get mentorship from someone who's older than you, who can teach you the ropes and tell you, hey, look, don't make your own mistakes, learn from mine. I made the mistakes already, you know? I think that is such a valuable asset. And that's like partly the thesis of the film. I mentioned that yesterday is like around mentorship, you know? And if I could impart anything on any community, it would be like, invest in a proper mentorship program, you know? And it means that, you know, sometimes you're going to get calls at 11 p.m. or midnight, you know, or it means that sometimes, you know, you might have to deal with, you know, mothers out like the stuff I have to deal with back home. Sometimes you'd be surprised, like
get out of your comfort zone.
Like mothers will call me up and be like, "Yo, I need help. My son is wilding out. Like I need you to come over and like talk with him."
Middle of the night.
It's like holy, like you put, but then it's like, hey, that investment in him is going to, inshallah, in the future, he's going to get out of his little phase. Other people will benefit from him, and it's something you pass on, right? That mentality where it takes a village to raise a child. Like we all have a role to play in people's development. Sometimes as an artist, for us, it's very easy. Like we come in, we're like the cool uncles, like we come in like once a day on Eid or whatever. Hey, so now here's $20 and you bounce, right? But like the real work is after we leave.
Yeah.
Like in Edmonton, it requires young guys like you. It requires other mentors, older brothers to actually invest time, and that's the thing that I feel like it's such a hard thing to do because it does really involve you being genuine, and it involves selfless, you like selfless. Like it can't be about you at that point. Like it has to be about giving back,
Well, I agree with that because like even in our situation, like we're at this point where like we alhamdulillah we have the opportunity to like to go to Dixie, we learn, but we still have the younger guys who also are in Dixie, and we try to reel them in, or if they're already in, we take it upon ourselves to actually hang out with them, Yeah. It's like before it was like they were too young, so it's like, yo, relax, get away from us. But now it's like we want to hang out with you guys. You guys are the cool ones now, You guys are the ones that are gonna do this to the generation after, right? So we can't be absent to it, No,
and you gotta be there, and you gotta like, especially for that like very formative years. I find like between like really 13 to like 18, like those years are really important.
That's where we push them away.
Especially in a young man's development. Like if they don't have a proper support system at that age, that's just like, you can go either this way or that way, and it's really important that as a community, like those years, high school, middle school, like having those mentorship programs, having older brothers like yourselves now who like, I've already gone through the system. I already went to Dixie. I already went to university, whatever. I know how it is, even as simple as like, for me, I remember like I didn't know anyone who had gone to university.
Wow.
Even applying to university was like this whole trip. Like I was like, I don't even know the process. Like having someone who's just gone through the ropes.
This guy was the first one for us.
But actually, my older sister, I remember she was the first one to apply to university, and even like her going through different programs and stuff like that, the parents didn't understand.
Yeah,
like she was like the first one from my family that was just kind of like learning how it worked out there. So it's like, oh, I'm in this program. Oh, how come you're not done yet?
Yeah,
how come you're not done yet?
Right.
But through her experience, she was able to pass that on to us.
Exactly.
And alhamdulillah, we were able to finish, in a shorter amount of time, we were able to avoid some of the problems that she went through, right? Even just sitting down and applying, having someone that's been through it sitting beside you.
Bro, that's like the most intimidating part, man.
Yeah.
Right? And that's partly because there's a lack of knowledge, right? And that's like a major reason why, we do the things we do. We don't know better, right? Like you can't, if I tell a youth, hey, you can make $1,000 a day selling crack, or you could, make $1,000 a month working at McDonald's. It's like, hey, bro, the math is very clear,
Yeah.
But we're complaining about them choosing the crack, but we're not giving them an option to do otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So as much as we will tell people like, this is haram, stay away from this, stay away from that, we're not giving them the alternative.
Yeah.
And we're not facilitating for them like, hey, no, this is the way. Like, yeah, there's grants, there's bursaries. Like, if you want to apply to university, there's this. It wasn't until like I graduated school that I learned about even bursaries and grants. And I was like, oh my God.
There's a whole other world.
Yeah, like there's a whole world out there for people that can access resources. And as a filmmaker, I'm learning this now. I've done 5 films. Now I'm learning like, oh, there's money out there. There's free money that the government is giving people to make productions.
Wow.
And most of them are trash. Most of them are done by like just, white people. I mean, shout out to all my white people out there,
Not trying to get canceled.
No offense. Yeah. We know you guys own everything, so I just want to stay on your good side. But you know what I mean? Like there's all these shortcuts to life that we're just cut out of. We're new immigrants. Our families, my parents didn't even, like none of our parents spoke English when they came. Like there's this huge barrier to access. Like we don't know how these things operate.
It's funny because like our people are the type to always look for shortcuts. We're not looking at the right places,
No, we're looking at each other for shortcuts. Like, bro, you don't know and I don't know. We need to talk to this guy,
Yeah, you gotta be able to talk to the right people.
Yeah,
100%.
Or when the right people, like when people from our community go through it, then they need to come back and they need to, pass on the baton and say, no, this is how you can do it.
Yeah, well, that is well said.
A lot of times people don't even know what's out there. So if you're someone who's in that position, you have to reach out and be like, hey, you know, I'm available. I'm here. Because a lot of times, like,
most people are to themselves.
You don't really know if there's a, you know, another engineer, another doctor, someone who's been through it, who's been through the same struggles that you're about to go through. So, you know, those people are the ones that have to, you know, make themselves available as much as possible.
Funny enough how you mentioned that, because mashallah, like my brother Omar, the one that you just met, he got into like a CPA program, and we all know like that program is extremely hard, you know. And he had the pleasure of another brother, Somali guy, talking to him and actually mentoring him and actually showing him his route and his study tactics and everything. And he didn't ask for anything in return. He didn't want anything in return. He just saying, I want to pass it forward so that you can pass it forward, you know? So it's good to have that mentality and not thinking selfishly. It's just, let's keep giving. And once we're in that position, we got to keep giving, you know?
And it becomes an amana. Like for me, I also feel adamantly about giving back because I had mentors in my life. They paid it forward to me. They really like went out on a limb and like sacrificed and invested in me. And like I made so many mistakes, bro. Like there's so many things that I did, like, you know, that like put them in compromising positions, or maybe I said things, got them in trouble, whatever. But like that investment got me to where I am now.
You know, it's funny how you mentioned that, because you know I actually became a poet because of you.
Ajib.
Yeah, because I used to fall in love with like the whole artistic way of like controlling a stage, all that stuff, right? So when I came across you, it was like, yo, this guy's pretty dope, you know. And then
blueprint.
Yeah, it was a blueprint. Like you paved the way for a lot of like artists trying to get into it, and subconsciously you were just doing your own thing, right? But a lot of people said, yo, we can do that too, and then
bro, but the thing is, like, I had people that I completely jacked their whole style and everything. Like, I'll tell you, there was one artist, he's non-Muslim, his name is Travis Blackman. You can search him up on YouTube. He's a spoken word artist. When I first saw this guy perform, I was in awe.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I never heard a spoken word before. I didn't even see him. I heard an audio on somebody's website. They just had a clip playing of this guy doing a spoken word piece. I had never heard of spoken word. I had never heard of, I just knew rap. That's it. I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh. This is like, it was the craziest thing I ever experienced, you know? So then I had other, you know, alhamdulillah, like I got into the slam poetry scene and I had mentors within that, people that showed me the ropes. I remember even learning a lot about stage performance from other poets.
Yeah.
Them, like,
you take mental note while they're performing.
No, but they're like actually putting me on game. Like one guy told me, hey, when you crack I'll never forget this. He told me, when you crack a joke, don't laugh.
Oh, wow.
Right? This is a he taught me to do on stage. Because like sometimes, and comedians are the best at this. When comedians tell a joke, they don't laugh at their own joke. It makes it funnier. Because then the onus is on you to see the humor in it. You're not laughing at me, you're laughing at the point of what I'm saying, right? He told me that after a show and I was like, oh, okay, that's good advice. And I literally, like, to this day, I'm talking about it. This is like over
that's crazy,
like 15, 16 years ago, you know?
Take note of that.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when I started off, it was more like, I used to think poetry was supposed to be dark. Like death and hellfire and turn back to Allah and straightforward, you know. But then I seen like a lighthearted side of it and like actually like making the crowd fall in love with you, being charming in a way, you know. And that's kind of like the personality that I have, right? So I was like, why am I trying to scare people if I have this? It's not me, you know. I have this like charismatic personality, right? So that's how I kind of like formed myself to. Now it's just like natural. You feel better about yourself, you know. It's like wallahi.
Yeah. Going back to the movie, Essam, I wanted to ask you. In what ways? First of all, it's your first time actually, you know,
mashallah,
acting,
Mubarak,
and Allah Mubarak, bro, you did a great job.
He did his thing.
So it felt like you connected with the character in like a deep way, you know. So in what way would you say you related to Bilal, and how did it resonate with you, just acting in that role?
So I remember the first time Boonaa sent me the script, and you know how Boonaa was talking about, you know, a lot of the themes of the film was touching on mentorship, you know. That's some of the things that was crossing my mind as I was reading the script. You know, to the point where by the end of the like when I finished reading the script, it brought me to tears. I really teared up. And I remember I called you right after. But there's like so many like characteristics of Bilal that I resonated with. Just him trying to find that role model or that figure, that positive figure in his life, because my father left before I was born, when I was in the belly of my mother. And I remember like, growing up, it was very difficult for me to really like
trust someone.
Yeah, like find that, like I always, you know, I wanted to be like, you know what I'm saying, the you know, like the gangsters in the neighborhood, like the older homies, you know what I mean? I wanted to be like my stepdad, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to be like the older homies in my community that left the streets but came to the dean, you know what I'm saying? So I was taken from everything, you know what I mean? And I feel like I really had to like figure it out on my own. Like nobody told me, yo, Essam, like you could do this, or you're great at this, or you're great at that. Like if anything, I feel like I got shunned a lot and I got put down a lot. And I feel like that really like built me in a way that I was like, you know, when I'm dealing with the younger generation now, I want to make sure that I become that mentor that I never had. You see what I'm saying? So that was like one of the key parts that I really connected with, just like that the struggle with fatherhood. You see what I'm saying? And not only that, just like every other aspect of the experiences that Bilal went through, like even as a teenager, a young teen, when I got into the streets, and then I was influenced by everything that was around me, and losing loved ones, you know, to the streets from a very young age. And it's different now. Like, I'm 29 now. You know, when you younger and you hear of a loved one dying, like your best friend or your friend, it hurts.
Deep,
It's so painful. Like you feel it physically. You know, over time, like it always hurts no matter what. You know, but you know what to expect. You know, I don't want to say you become numb. You know, but you've experienced this emotion before, so you're able to reflect in a different way, and you start to realize, you know what, like life is really short. You know what I'm saying? And death does not discriminate. Bullets don't got names. You see what I'm saying? So any of us could go at any moment, right? So, just to answer the question, I felt like Bilal was me too. You know, and yeah, like I even when I was acting in the film, like there was moments where I had to revisit emotions from my past. Like relive certain experiences in order to step into that character. You see what I'm saying? And it was emotional. There was moments on set where I'm like, I don't want anybody talking to me right now because I'm actually feeling like what's going on right now. You see what I'm saying? So it was really personal. It was more than just a role.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if I even told you this, but even playing the character Purple, it took me to a really dark place. Like being in the head of that character for so many weeks. Like I actually started feeling like down, like depressed, like sad, because it's like you just think of all the wasted potential. You just think of like, you know, like everything that he's going through. One thing that I noticed about your real life persona and Bilal, and it's why it really drew me into even having you play the character, is even though there's this macho exterior in the beginning, like, you know, in the beginning of the film, he pretends to be, but there's really a sense of innocence. There's like a sense of like stolen childhood. Like he's overcompensating for something that was taken away from him, you know, like, and I think that's male bravado. Like when, you know, you see a lot of times they say the you know, the little dog that barks the loudest, you know, like the guys who are huff and puff, like, oh, I'm ready to fight this and that. There's really something really sad deep inside of them. You know, there's something that they're overcompensating for a lot of times. So I felt like with your character, like what really drew me to you is that there is this sense of inner innocence that, like, you know, as an artist now, you're able to express it, you're able to vocalize it using your art. But if you didn't have that, like you would have to, you know, still carry on with this male bravado and not have that experience of, you know, getting that side of it out of you. So that was one thing that I noticed about you and Bilal. Like that's the way I wrote the character too. You know, like he's putting on this exterior front because he really does feel really hurt about his father leaving him, about like, you know, these things are traumatic. Yeah, and it's really hurt him inside. And it's to the extent where he's lashing out on his mother. He doesn't any male authority in his life, he doesn't really know how to interact with them. Like he assumes they're gonna just, you know, with the uncle character, like he assumes it's all about rules and he's gonna just, you know, leave him if he makes the biggest, like the one mistake or whatever. Like, so even that trauma of the character, like going through what you've experienced even in your life, coming from a single parent family, living in the hood, all these things, it's like it toughens us up on the exterior only because we're trying to overcompensate for what the trauma that we really had to go through.
Hiding the pain. And touching up on what you just said about stepping into Purple's character, It was I heard it was the person that played Joker, the original Joker.
Yeah.
He committed suicide. You know what I'm saying?
Heath Ledger.
And then they said because he stepped so much into the character that he lost his mind. You see what I'm saying? And that's real. Like when you're getting into film and theater, it's like you're really like if you want to like successfully play that character, you have to step into that character and be that character in that moment. And sometimes it will even throw off your energy for the rest of the day. You know what I'm saying?
You're that personality for, you know, as long as
sometimes you get into dark places because you start. Part of it is when you're acting, you have to look for motivation. You have to actually dissect each scene, and like the director will tell you, hey, your motivation in this scene is, you know, you're feeling this way because of this, right? Stuff that's like subtle stuff that's not in the script. I remember one of the scenes where at the end when I find out that, you know, my mother passed away. Spoiler alert. Okay.
At this point,
That's
you
a
gotta
big
watch the
spoiler.
At this point, you just gotta watch the whole film now. You're just gonna be like, I knew this part. I remember actually, Mahmoud came up to me right before we shot that scene. Mahmoud, the director, is a Sudanese brother. Mashallah, he did a great job.
Shout out to him.
Yeah. He had lost his mother, you know, a few years back. So he actually had to get me in the headspace, and he was telling me like, you know, when I found out the news about my mother, this is what I experienced. This is what I went through. This is the way I reacted. Like it was first it was like shock, like he didn't believe it, and then you know. So he explained it to me to try and get me in the headspace for that scene, and so he's telling me this, and I'm like, damn, bro, like your mom's passed away, and this is like you got it. Like he's reliving it, I'm having to relive it, and we're trying to show it for the audience. It's a lot. Like you really gotta dig, you know, inside to sometimes find those like bits of inspiration, like, okay, you know, I've seen someone do this in a certain way in my life. Well, this would be interesting to bring to the character. You know, you're really drawing upon all these different things, and you're creating like a collage. You're bringing together all these different experiences and trying to create a cohesive argument.
Scary.
I just wanted to say Mahmoud did a great job with that too, even with me. Like he would remind you and walk you through like aspects and different perspectives of how to approach, you know, different scenes in the film. So shout out to Mahmoud. That's such a great director.
It's scary because like people only see like the face value of the movie, but they don't really know what gets put into it, you know? Like having to trick your mind just to get into that headspace of so that you can deliver, you know, like a class act or whatever, you know? And so I wanted to ask Bilal, so when you seen the script and like it led you to being emotional, how did you prepare like to get into that character? Like
preparation is memorization. I had to memorize the script. Boonaa sent me to some class I don't even want to talk about. but I was like, yo, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this no more. So I went for like 2 days. But anyways, even though you memorize the whole script, like it's a whole script, so you're gonna forget, right? So every day I had to actually memorize the scripts, the scenes that we're shooting for that day. And then the way Boonaa really set it up in terms of the scheduling, it's like we had to knock it off within the span of 2 weeks, right? So we were shooting parts of the film like that was at the end of the film at the beginning.
Out of order.
It was not in order.
Like those last scenes we shot the first day.
You see what I'm saying? You know, so it was even interesting reflecting on that as I was watching the film because I could see where I was more comfortable and less comfortable. You see what I'm saying?
You know, actually strategically, I think it worked to our advantage because your acting got better throughout the course of the film.
Yeah.
So if we would have made it so that all the bad acting was in the beginning, the film would have struggled, right?
Yeah.
So in fact, what we did was we spaced it out. I had. Do you remember day one?
I remember day one.
Day one, we did
the park scene.
The park scene.
The guns.
And then we did the farewell scene, the grave scene. That was all done on the first day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we literally did something from the beginning and the very end.
Yeah. Wow. And those were calm like scenes.
They were very kind of, you know, but at the same time, it allowed us to work into the character.
Yeah.
And then the parts that required heavier acting, like more emotion, we saved towards the end.
Yeah.
Because by that time, he would have been a lot more fine-tuned.
Yeah.
I was telling him earlier, I loved how, even though it's not supposed to be a funny movie, where it was you wanted it to be funny, you guys executed it like perfectly, you know.
Go ahead, finish it.
Yeah, like for example, like I don't want to spoil anything, but the halal scene, like where you say, I don't know any halal spots.
It's not halal, you gotta know.
Who wrote that?
But I wanted to say though, you know how you were talking about comedians, they don't laugh at their jokes, right? So I feel like that's also an example of how it was executed.
It's a straight face.
Yeah, it's like when the characters are not laughing, but the whole theater is laughing. You know what I'm saying?
Did you laugh at it when you read the script? Like,
no, you know, subhanAllah, there was a lot of lines I didn't know were funny.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he got that.
I didn't
joke.
catch. Yeah, I'm like, yo,
Even the way they delivered it was like straight.
Not supposed to be funny. It was innocent.
Yeah, but I knew writing it. First of all, I told him in the car right
saw the
here.
vision.
I was like, first of all, this line is the funniest line I ever seen.
that's
in
my
all my writing.
Yeah.
I thought it was the
funniest
funniest thing I'd ever written, and I was just. Every time we see it in the theater and people laugh, I laugh even harder.
Yeah.
Like, it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
It
Such
comes
a
out of
deep
nowhere.
moment,
Yeah. But it's just like a heated moment.
But I'm not gonna lie, that scene that you're talking about was probably one of my favorite scenes
My favorite
in the
scene
film.
too.
Like in terms of my performance,
Yeah.
I was really proud of that.
the way
you
you
know?
delivered it, because it's supposed to be a serious scene,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
you're being pushed back, and you delivered a nice punchline, like what we're supposed to do.
Oh
you
no,
know?
the funnier part was in the beginning when he shows up with the grill.
Oh, the grill, the grill was funny. Yeah.
Yo, that one makes everybody laugh. And that one wasn't meant to be as funny.
Yeah.
But then
That's
seeing people's
funny.
reaction, I'm like, oh yeah.
And it's because like the grill was exaggerated. It was like a fake. You know what I'm
It was
saying?
an Amazon grill.
It was an
It
Amazon
was
grill.
actually one of those, and he had to mold it
Took
in his
it out,
mouth.
and he took it out.
No, here's the funny part. This is actually.
I know you about to say. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So initially, we wanted it to fit in his mouth,
Yeah.
but the grill was so cheap. It was like a plaster mold. So when he put it in his mouth, he couldn't talk. So instead of doing the whole scene with the grill, we said, okay, just do the first line.
Yeah.
Oh
and then take it
yeah,
out.
I forgot that part.
Because
Hilarious.
then it made, but that part of him, like, he's like, what is the line again? It's like,
I said, open your eyes.
yeah, open your eyes, yeah. But the way he says it's like, open your eyes. So we told him, like, yo, exaggerate that part. So that's harder to speak. And then Jenna's like, you know what? And then but yeah, it wasn't built in. Like, initially we wanted him to speak
whole
the
time.
whole scene with the grill.
Yeah.
But because we decided that because the grill was really cheap, we were like, khalas, we'll just scrap it.
But hey, forget only the grill, bro. The whole outfit. It looked like I'm designered up.
Hold
You know
on,
what I mean?
that outfit looked tight, right?
It looked fine.
It looked like
It
some
looked fine.
designer, right?
Yeah, go.
Tell them where we got it from.
What do you call those shops in Canada,
Bro,
bro?
we went to some flea market.
Goodwill or something?
No, it was a flea market, bro.
Flea market. It was not even real, bro.
We went to like one of the cheapest
Oh
like
my
ghetto
gosh.
malls. We went there. I remember it was Eid day. It was the day of Eid. Remember? It was literally
I remember it was
everything was shut down.
It was empty.
It was empty. It was like a Sunday.
I remember how the shop
It
looked
was
like.
the ghettoest mall. I took him there and I just said, "Yo, we'll find something that looks flashy, but it's actually cheap."
Yeah.
The thing was so cheap, literally.
It ripped. The pants
The
ripped.
pants
towards the end.
ripped, everything
No
ripped.
way.
By the end of the shooting, we had to just throw it in the garbage. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair, suit, you did your job, and we just tossed it in the bin. It
That was
Like,
funny, man.
That's so funny. I love how like it's like most movies, like the humor always caters to either one side or another. You know, it's not that general, but this one was catering to like our community. So we got every line, every joke, and everybody was laughing. Like it was loud too. That and the little kid running around the stage.
Oh my God. Don't even talk to me about that. You know, but you know what's funny? I had a lot of my family that were there yesterday. A lot of them, you know, like don't speak English fluently. So I kept asking them, I'm like, do you guys understand the film?
Yeah.
And then my one uncle was like, yeah, like 60% maybe. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of slang too, right? And sometimes we don't
yeah.
account for that. Like we don't realize that non-fluent English speakers or native English speakers won't pick up on some of the nuances in the language. But then there's also the Canadian slang versus the American slang.
You know what I noticed on that point? Like when we did the screening in Toronto, and even like Vancouver and Edmonton. The Canadian slang like that, you know what I mean, like
patois,
putty, the patois influence, like the Canadians, y'all is laughing. But then when we came to Seattle, we came to the United States, not a single person laughed. They're like, what is this goofy guy doing, you know?
Yeah, they didn't get it.
But when it came to my humor and then the way I talked, they was laughing more. You know what I'm saying? So
What up, cuz? He's talking to himself in the mirror.
The moment we heard the first bit of Toronto slang, everybody started laughing. On that scene, the sidewalk.
In Toronto, when we showed it, people were
That was
dying,
crazy.
bro. They could not imagine that such a disgusting accent would be highlighted on such a professional halal film. You know, they were like,
and
"What
he,
is
and
this?"
he was mentioning earlier how it's like you were doing the language, but like you weren't like forcing it. Like it was just.
So actually, there was a very conscious decision. So one of the things that I did, Putty, the guy who played one of the characters in the film, for him, I told him to turn it up. I said, really exaggerate your slang. But for me, I knew that this film is going to be shown everywhere. Like it's not just Toronto. So I had to actually make my slang a lot more subtle. Because I didn't want it to throw people off.
That's what he told me to do the same thing with my. Because there was certain slang words I want to include, but he was like, we got to pretty much like. You know what I mean? Turn it down a notch so people could understand and digest it.
Yeah, because otherwise we're going to lose audience, right? And now imagine, it's not just Canadian slang. It's Toronto slang and then West Coast
Canadian
slang,
and
American slang. It's like one
different.
film with that much slang and different coasts of slang. It's like, bro, we
But you
gotta
did
meet
mention
somewhere in the middle.
There was people in Canada talking about what's up with this kid, you know, trying to put on an American accent from Canada. I'm like,
No. There's people who are being critical. They're like, oh, why do you have an American playing a Canadian? And I was like, first of all, there's a lot of Americans in Canada. That's not, that's easy. Yeah. But then, you know what it is? I was telling him, it comes from a long history of Canadian films and Canadian characters being played by Americans. So Canadians are very like self-conscious of that. Like we feel like, oh, why don't you hire us to act as ourselves? You know, it's like the same complex they have with Somali actors. It's not until recently they started hiring Somali actors. Remember Black Hawk Down was a bunch of like random West African dudes, and so people get offended by that. They're like, yo, why can't we be our terrorists? Like, what? We want to be our guys. Like, why does this guy have to play him? Like, so they were the same way. They were like, yo, why are we having Americans play Canadians? And I was like, no, it's not even like that. In the film, we acknowledge that he's actually American. Yeah, we never shied away from it. That's the thing that I didn't want him to do. I didn't want him to fake a Toronto accent.
He did a good job explaining it in the film too. Like he's saying, "Oh, why do you sound like that?" Like, the characters itself were bringing it up.
They call that in filmmaking exposition. So exposition is there's a fact I need to tell you, but I need to incorporate it into the story.
So follow me. One of the major things that I give you guys respect for is one thing you mentioned, how you guys were able to film the whole thing and have this whole movie with no swear words. And this is supposed to be like a hood movie, and it had no swear words, nothing.
And you didn't even feel like you didn't feel like it was missing out on
exactly. And you didn't feel like, oh, this is PG rated. So the whole time you're still in those same emotions as if you're watching a regular Top Boy or something like that. And then another thing for me, I'm driving back home and I'm like, did I really just watch a movie and it gave me a man boost?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm driving back home and I'm like, I'm about to pray Fajr and miss today.
I need to do some Qiyam al-Layl or something wrong with my iman.
Bro,
that's not the same.
Because you touched on it where you said like nowadays the youth, what do they resonate with the most is like movies and shows. So it's like, now I'm like, maybe there is a way to like storytell and give da'wah in a form of films and TV and still keeping it in a halal way, I never thought that something like that could happen, but as I'm driving back, I'm like, whoa.
Bro, that's the future. It's the future, man. And that, in fact, it has to happen. Like, we're losing youth left, right, and center. We're losing our community. We see what's happening outside. We see their agenda. They're force feeding their philosophies to us now, not just blatantly, but through media, through what they teach the kids at school.
Even in Muslim shows, they're gonna make it a Muslim character and still incorporate whatever they want.
SubhanAllah. So unless we look for opportunities, like imagine, look in the film, we broke down hadith. We talked about the hadith, the man who killed 99 people. Like, I think there's ways of teaching Islam in ways that are in fact more powerful and impactful than just like a khutbah, like a guy on the minbar and he says the hadith and you don't know the context, you don't feel anything, you just hear it and leave. It to you. But if we can show people the story, like this is really even the philosophy I had for my third film, Righteous Sinner, which is based on the story of Barsisa the monk. Right, so I took one story that's from the Islamic tradition. It's from an Israeliyat story. It's not a hadith. It's from the people who came before us. But using that as dissecting that story and turning it into a film. Wow. We are a tradition of storytelling. Islamically, like we come from a tradition where stories are used to teach. 1/3 of the Quran is stories. Why does Allah Azza wa Jalla use stories? Think about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us through stories, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows how we are and how we resonate with certain, storytelling functions and metaphors. You're able to draw examples from, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, he went through this. How does this relate to my life? Humans are very selfish like that. We take any story and we try and relate it back to us, right? Naturally, you'll hear a story and you'll be like, well, how does that relate to me? So when you can provide stories that have benefit, you'll immediately find people that say, I saw the character do this. Well, maybe next time I should try something like that, So storytelling is one of those things. That's why I don't use terms like poet or filmmaker. Like for me, I am a storyteller. I don't care the mechanism. If it's audio, if it's video, if it's story, poetry, I'm just telling stories. And I think that's a tradition that, first of all, Somalis, like this is the land of poets. This is the land, like you guys come from this tradition as well. Like this is something that we as Muslims should adopt and should be we should be the flag bearers of storytelling. Film festivals, poetry competitions, like whatever. We should be the ones telling everyone how to tell stories, not the other way around.
Yeah, because you did mention that yesterday. You were saying how, you know, we should tell our story. Why are they telling it for us? Because what was the analogy? The table and the...
They say if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Exactly. Yeah,
you know, subhanAllah. Yeah. And if we're not the ones who are even dictating, telling people like, okay, well, this is what's acceptable when you're talking about Islam and Muslims, right? Like for people to have Muslim characters in shows, to me is not good enough. Because a Muslim character behaves a certain way, right? And of course, like you saw in our film, like characters are flawed. Like I can be a character, but
Muslim
you know how I know the film is like the worlds are so different in the ways that we show, in the times that we've shown the film. You know, Bilal's character is disrespectful to his mother, right? People in the film, when they watch it, are more upset at that. Yeah. The Muslim audience is like, this guy spoke to his... Forget the guns, the drugs, whatever. Like, this guy spoke to his mother like that? Subhanallah. Like, that's why I do. It's like so funny because like we have different values, right? Like, it's okay to shoot somebody, right? Or it's okay to like come from a world where there's violence, but we know like,
never talk to your
mother like that. Like, that's a very disrespectful thing.
Even when I watch it, I'm like, man. My mom was at the screening in Seattle, and I went to my mom. I said, I'm sorry.
So it's like we as Muslims, like we shouldn't compromise what makes us unique, what makes us have value. And I think even in the future, you know, because more shows will do this now. They'll throw in the Muslim character, one hijabi here, but then they'll just be like anyone else.
Regular character.
They're creating the facade of a Muslim, but not the lifestyle or the thinking or the personality of a Muslim.
If you're gonna add a Muslim character, you gotta show the Muslim character for what it is, you know.
So this is why, like, I had major problems with that series. I don't know if you guys saw Miss Marvel.
Yeah, there's,
you know, like I
did not want to watch it,
but
I did not want to.
I was so triggered by it, man. I watched I'm a filmmaker, so like I gotta, you know, I can't just talk smack. Like I gotta actually watch it and dissect it. I watched the first episode. I'm like, oh, this whole thing's going downhill. And I remember all the Muslims were telling me, like, I put out a post about it and I listed like top 5 reasons why I thought the whole series was trash after the first episode. And people were like, no, how can you say that? Man. They told, this is how I know brown people are like, they pick sides when they write off. Bro, they told me, when Black Panther came out, you never said anything. I'm like, yo, I didn't have anything to do with Black Panther. I wasn't, you know what I mean? You really try and put Marvel against one another. Like, you were with this Marvel guy, how can you not with, I'm like, bro, that's a completely different story, you know? But it's like when they in that show, she is a Muslim character, but there's in her world, Islam is the problem. Yeah. Right? Because she's Muslim, she can't do this. She can't do that. She can't have a boyfriend. She can't go to school. She can't have friends like this. Islam is holding her back. In my films, Islam is the answer. Right? Islam is the solution to the problems. So it's a very different way philosophically of even utilizing Islam in the story. Right? People will talk about Islam and Muslims, but it's like something where it's a burden. Right? Oh, I'm Muslim, so you know they have a lot of shows like this for young, especially young women, and this is how they want to actually take our sisters away from Deen, take them away from hijab, all these things. It's like, oh, why can't I do this? Because my brother can do this, or I'm a girl, so I can't do this, and you know, Islam is so unfair towards women, and so they'll have this young female character who's like at odds with Islam, right? Not seeing the other side of it, that Islam is the solution to your problems. Islam is the thing that's protecting you. It's giving you izzah. It's giving you dignity, right? So I think it's philosophically, you have to see how they're even framing Islam in their stories. Because a lot of times they make Islam the problem and really it's the solution.
And I love how you mentioned that, because in the film itself, you're making Bilal, you're putting Bilal slowly and slowly into a deeper hole, showing first his desires, wanting that fast money, having to want like all the power, that, you know, that feeling of being in control, you know? And then once he reaches that point of, you know, you get to reach like the final point, it was never worth it to begin with. And he even, I think he mentions in the movie, like all that stuff doesn't bring you happiness, you know? And then it goes into that intense scene into the alley, which by the way, you did a very good job in that one, mashallah, I wanted to say. But it's...
shout out J. Dean. Did you guys see that 5-second cameo?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Did you not hear that? Gunshots.
You didn't even notice it?
I didn't catch it, no.
Bro,
he told him,
the guy who comes out and tells him, yo, there's gunshots in front of you. It was JD.
Oh,
yo, you know what happened? This is how funny movies are. This guy literally showed up on set. We wanted to check this guy. He's like, oh, you're in town? What's up? I said, oh, you're here? Oh, you're in the movie, dog. There was no lines written for him, nothing. I was like, yo, we're going to finesse the whole thing right now.
Crazy. And you guys plugged him into like the most like deepest, most like intimate moment. You know, he was having his ones with
Allah, bro. He just showed up.
But yo, it was actually a very good like transition into like the scene. I don't want to spoil a big one, you know, but very transition into a bigger scene, you know, and that I think was probably the most emotional scene, you know, with the uncle, right?
Yeah,
because it was like, it was very deep. It was like everything someone's done for you, sacrificed for you, and they're the collateral that I was mentioning, the collateral damage, right? So like it was deep, but it was I think that scene won you the award, as I was saying.
He literally, by the way, he won Best Performance
Mashallah.
at a recent film festival called
Mashallah,
Hollywood North.
Mashallah.
No, price just went up, man.
Price just went up. I told you, bro. Get him on the next movie before he's gone.
I gotta talk to his agent now. You be sending me, oh, talk to this person. I'm like, hey, that's me. What are you talking about? You're sending me all these fake numbers, bro.
It's crazy. Yeah, you gotta have him in future. I'd love to see you guys work together in future projects. But like I'm telling you guys did a very good job. Like your chemistry together was seen on the movie. You know, even with your characters, like you have Bilal on one side who is he's innocent, but like you said, he talks back to his mother, and it's like, wow. But then the opposite happens with you, where it's like you're getting involved with all the stuff that Bilal wants to get into, but you're actually respecting your mother. And you had a scene where you're like, don't talk bad about your mother like that, you know? So it's like, it's kind
Isn't
of like
that ironic though?
Yeah.
I thought that part was so interesting. Like,
noticed that flip.
The person that this guy's aspiring to be like is actually a very respectful person.
Yeah.
He has boundaries.
Yeah. Which leads you to that big question you asked in is purple a good or bad?
The good and bad thing, yeah. You know, the crazy part about that is like you know how people always try to make things black and white?
Yeah.
Like there's a verse in the Quran where Allah says, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. That for everything, Allah created in pairs. Meaning, a lot of people take it as like male and female, right? But the scholars, they said that it's a lot deeper than that. Like there's night and day. There's male and female. There's, you know, the sky and the earth. Like everything has like, it's parallel, you know? But when it comes to good and bad, it's like this space where it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that knows. And I feel like for me, obviously, like you see that character Purple, everything that he was doing throughout the movie, you're like, okay, this is inherently, he's a bad person. But his character, the way he moves, like the way he treats his mom, he's selling, but he's not indulging in it. And he's like, oh, it's salat time. So there's a lot of like contradictory stuff.
That's so ajib, bro.
It's contradictory. In the end, it's like this person who was a Muslim, and I don't want to spoil the way the movie ended.
Oh, part 2 coming out soon. Don't worry.
The way the movie ended, but it's like the whole good and bad thing for me. It's a space that is very, very, you know, like it's a space you leave for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially if the person is a Muslim, especially if the person prays. And at the same time, as long as the person is a Muslim, it's someone that you can make dua for. You can make dua for that person. And then you just leave it into the hands of Allah, the most merciful. But at the same time, he's the most just. So our justice, the way we try to see things, the way we judge between human beings is completely different than the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to judge between us.
That's heavy.
Man's a serial killer, bro. And you know what's funny? In the film, we don't even talk about what happened before that point, right? We're meeting him at the end of his journey, right? Like, so
what
he
made
even
him
said,
get to that, basically.
if I was to do a part 2, by the way, and I'm not saying I will, but if I want to, I really want to do a story about like Purple in high school. Like, how did he become a savage? Because there's kind of things we hinted at. Like, first of all, he was picked on.
I was about to mention that. Yeah.
He had an accent, right?
And they're not here no more.
Yeah. Bruh, people like that, they're the scary ones.
Wow.
The ones who have gone through like they gone through trauma. Like they've actually had to live that world of getting picked on, getting beat up, getting exploited. Like when they turn savage, bro, you don't want to get in their way.
Yeah.
The thing about Purple, what I like about him as a character is when we meet him, he has no more fear. Everything that has happened to him, it's gone.
Yeah.
He's such a unique example of like what happens when, you know,
You're numb.
it's like you're numb. Literally, he's
You
numb.
have nothing to lose.
He doesn't care. There's nothing that scares him at this point. He doesn't care about dying. He doesn't care about living. Like that to me is a very scary thing to be in. You know. But another thing about just that question, we asked that question to the audience, like rhetorically, like is he a good or a bad character? It's almost a litmus test for what you understand to be good or bad, right? Because it says more about you than it does about the character. Because if you see a character like that and you think, oh, he's bad, it means you don't understand the complexity of how people can be. Like sometimes you can do bad things. Like, bro, there are Muslim leaders. There are people who lead the countries who like millions of people will die under their watch. But you still like, he's a Muslim, he prayed like, hey bro, he was in a weird situation. May Allah have mercy on them. Like you don't know, subhanAllah. So I think it says a lot about us as individuals. If we see a character like that and we automatically just blanket them as they're bad, right? It's like, that means when you see one of these youth walk into the masjid, your first thing is, oh, this is a bad person.
Yeah.
But you can't think that. Like you have to see people beyond just the surface, right? And when you don't give people a shot or a chance to even be who they are, like you're missing out. Imagine if in the character of Uthman, he gives him this advice. He says, imagine this guy became a leader in the community, right? Imagine he did become Sheikh Purple. Like what would that have been like? You know, who would have been able to be guided under him? Like how much benefit would he have been able to provide? You know, it's like we dismiss people and we write them off before we even give them a chance to prove themselves.
Yeah. And at that point, we just give up on them, and then there's no like helping hand, like we were talking about earlier. It's just leave them be and no guidance. Alhamdulillah, like in the film, Bilal had that guidance. But let's say theoretically in that film, he didn't have that. He was in that stuck position. If he didn't get into that taxi, you know, then he probably would have been one of the brothers that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's a reality for a lot of people. We just write them off, and who knows if deep inside they're crying for help. And who knows if they're waiting for one of us to be that, you know, that light at the end of the tunnel for them. But we're the ones like closing that tunnel for them.
Yeah, we're like telling, you know, you're right off, you're going here. SubhanAllah.
Crazy, wallah. You just see, you know, the face value, drug dealer, the way you're dressed, and nah, you're not a good person.
Bro, how much times we see a girl walk into the masjid, no hijab?
Yeah. Everyone's the first. It's the first. Everyone's the first to point fingers.
Yeah, why is she here?
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm gonna butcher the story, but there was I believe it was Imam Malik or Imam Ghazali, one of the two. I'm just paraphrasing now, so don't quote me on the story. But they had one scholar saw a scholar speaking to a woman outside of a masjid, and she wasn't dressed properly. And I think he like let her in the back door of the masjid or whatever. And they came up to him and they're like, "Yeah, Sheikh, like." Look at this woman, like how is she dressed? Like why are you letting her in the masjid? And he told her, isn't this the house where the sick people are supposed to go? Isn't this where the people who are da'if in their faith, isn't this where we should be taking them? You know? And it's like we have, and I said this yesterday too, like we have made our religious institutions, our masajid, this like country club for angels only. Yeah. You know? Only the best of the best are allowed to be here. But it's like, subhanAllah, that's the furthest from the truth, right? Even the ones who are struggling, they should be there. Because that's how they're going to get better. Yeah. Right? And if we close the doors, and even in the film, like you saw, physically the doors to the masjid were closed. Yeah. That's happened to me in many times in my life, by the way. Like so many times when we go to ask for help and the doors are literally locked, physically and metaphorically, right? Like there's no one there. You want to ask for help? Who do you call? Oh, sorry, Imam's not here. There's a janitor. One time I had a sister, subhanAllah, I was in front of a masjid in Toronto. Sister came, we just finished praying Isha, we're brothers outside, we're chatting, whatever, it's like summertime. I remember sister runs to the door and she's like trying to get in. She's like in a state of panic. I'm like, sister, are you okay? And she's like, no, I can't take this anymore. My husband, he beats me, this and that. Like, she's like, I need help right now, I'm like, sister, there's nobody here. Like, I don't know what you need help with, but like nobody here can help you. But in her mind, she's like, no, I'm going to the masjid. The masjid is going to help me. And I'm like, I had to break it to her. I'm like, yo, there's nobody here. Like, there's nobody here to help you. Like, there's a janitor, a dude who cleans up, doesn't even speak English, and then us. And we don't work here. You know? So, like, alhamdulillah, we tried to help her anyways. But my point being that, like, those opportunities for people to get help are very rarely accessible. You know?
SubhanAllah. Wallah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. But anyways, we want to thank you guys for allowing us to be on your show. I can see my brother starts checking on his phone. I know.
Everybody wrap it up.
You know what I'm saying?
We could have went on forever with the
rodeo. I enjoy your presence, man. In the slave of the most wise. I've known you for many years. You know.
Yeah, I know.
We actually started doing art because of you.
Really? So it's
so for a full circle moment, and I was inspired by him.
You know what it is? Now you know what it is, bro. Like we all inspire each other in different ways. You know, even with this platform and this space that you're providing, it's going to inspire many people, inshallah. You know, may Allah accept it. Yeah, Allah bless y'all.
I want to be the first to thank you guys for coming. Wallah, you guys dropped a lot of wisdom on us, knowledge. You know, you guys taught me that
having you guys there,
the masjid has, you know, the first masjid in
You gotta know
Edmonton.
about Edmonton history, brother.
Yeah, I gotta you guys taught me some Edmonton history, but yeah, wallah, this was very fun. Our first ever interview. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it was our
Oh, so
first
you guys
ever.
only
First
just
guest.
speak with each other.
Yeah, we only spoke.
Oh, so we took brother's chair. My bad, Akhi. This was a big chance to shine. I mean, you got kicked off.
Wallah,
Huh? Damn.
you guys kickstarted a very our collaborative journey. So
There's a lot of people out here you should interview.
yeah,
man.
no. At first, we wanted to kind of like build our foundation before
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
into that, and we saw the opportunity, and within a day we just made it happen, right? So and look at the turnout.
Shoot
So
your shot, bro. That's what I told you, man.
shoot your shot, wallah, yeah.
Sometimes the opportunity presents itself. You just gotta.
You just gotta go for it. I don't even believe in like asking. I think you gotta take opportunities.
Take opportunities,
Literally,
yeah.
Like we already set up a podcast for you tomorrow 3 p.m.
Hello.
Hey, bro.
Allah is sick,
There's
man.
no option. We have no choice. We're like, all right.
Yeah,
we gotta
facts,
rock
wallah.
with it.
So yeah, guys, I know you guys have places to be, busy guys. So we're gonna let you guys go, and then inshallah, we need to tap in definitely.
Inshallah. Just let everyone know to check out the film. Go to purpledon'tcry.com.
Where are my manners? Allah?
We're hopefully, inshallah, going to be taking it to more cities in the next, we've done this first leg of our tour, which is basically a few cities in North America. We're hoping to take it to Europe. We want to take it to the UK, Australia. So the way we're doing it is a little bit, it's a slow grind, right? Like, because I think the value of showing the film and having a discussion afterwards is really important.
Yeah.
So, in order for us to do that, we need to physically be there. So there's only so many places we can be in at once. But we're hoping, inshallah, if the people out there who'd like to bring the film to their city, they can get in touch with us, inshallah. You can follow myself on social media, BOONAAM on Instagram, Essam Muhammad, Mass139, MASSONE
MASSEONE.
MASSEONE.
And we'll put the
39.
socials down.
Yeah, check it out,
yeah.
inshallah. Hit us up. But yeah, man, hopefully that, if you did like the film, I really want opportunities like this to talk about the film because I think it's such an important topic and the theme of the film is important, but also for Muslim creatives to know that there is opportunities to tell stories in a halal way. There is opportunities for us to utilize our skill set for khair. So I just want other filmmakers and creatives to get excited and inspired to say, look, sky's the limit. Like there's nothing really stopping us now.
All right. With that being said, we wanted to say, you guys, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That's what it.
Cut.
What up, man?
Wallahi.
I should do the theme song for them, bro.